In a world where only the gifted wield divine weapons, these sacred tools are the embodiment of a person's soul and possess unique, unparalleled abilities. The noble Castro family once defeated an evil god and has since been blessed with extraordinary gifts. Every member of this ducal house is born with a golden spoon in their mouth, boasting strong bodies, incredible talents, and divine weapons. Bell was born into this prestigious family, destined to become a hero and proudly wield his sacred weapon. Or so it was supposed to be. At the oracle ceremony, where each person's divine weapon is revealed, Bell received nothing. He became the first and only failure in the history of the Castro family. Shunned and ridiculed, Bell endured relentless bullying from his relatives. The most hostile among them was Zane, the second son of the family. Zane grabbed Bell by the hair, sneering that a nonentity like him, unable to summon a divine weapon, had no place in their family. Poor Bell, beaten and in pain, couldn't utter a word, only groaning as he suffered. Nearby stood the youngest daughter, Sarah, and the eldest daughter, Jessica. Jessica watched the scene with a smile, while Sarah was deeply worried. Unable to stand it any longer, Sarah tried to help her brother, but Jessica tripped her, causing her to fall. Jessica then placed her foot on Sarah's head, taunting her and asking what she thought she was doing. She commanded Sarah to simply observe and learn what happens to a nonentity like Bell, saying that they were just weaklings. Seeing this, Bell called out to his little sister in concern, but Zane yanked his hair even harder and stabbed him in the stomach. Bell collapsed to the ground, and Zane sat on top of him, pummeling his face and calling him a mudblood. With a cruel smile, Zane mocked Bell, asking if he really thought he could handle anything. He was just a mongrel, a worthless creature. Meanwhile, Jessica continued to beat Sarah, both siblings calling them mongrels and reveling in their cruelty. They were the chosen, and Bell and Sarah were the unwanted, the disgraced members of the illustrious Castro family. They were the children of a concubine, marked as rootless and relentlessly bullied by those around them. Bell and Sarah endured every torment until their oppressors grew tired and left them in peace. Bell, filled with guilt, bowed his head to Sarah. "It's all my fault," he said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "I need to apologize." Sarah, ever the beacon of hope, smiled warmly at him. "Don't worry," she replied. "I will always be there for you." Bell, his voice barely above a whisper, spoke her name and then, with a newfound determination, declared, "I will become stronger, even without divine weapons. I promise you, Sarah, I will protect you with my life." His eyes shone with resolve as he made this vow. Sarah, delighted by his words, rushed into his arms, thanking him profusely. Yet, despite his promise, fate had other plans. A few days later, Bell was cast out of the house amidst a torrential downpour, carrying only a small bag. As the gates of the estate closed behind him, he looked up, allowing the rain to cascade over his face, and cursed his helplessness. He understood that without him, Sarah would be left alone with their cruel tormentors. He needed strength, real strength, to free her. Ordinary weapons were useless against those who wielded divine power. He had no choice but to become stronger. Finally, Bell reached the city as the rain stopped. His first stop was a gun shop. He slammed a bag of coins onto the counter, the sound echoing through the shop. Pouring out the coins, he declared, "I want one of each type of weapon." The shopkeeper, counting the coins in astonishment, looked up at Bell and asked, "Are you planning to start a war?" 2 years passed. Bell, now a seasoned warrior with a horse and an arsenal of weapons, rode determinedly into the forest. His gaze was steely as he prepared for the battle ahead. A horde of armed goblins awaited him. He laid out his weapons on a cloth, selecting a sword and a mace. Smiling at the monsters, he announced, "Let's begin." Bell swung his weapons with precision, cutting through the air and quickly switching between them as he fought. Goblins fell one by one to his relentless assault. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. He spun around, ready for another fight. On a rock stood a man in a white robe, his face hidden beneath a hood. Intrigued by Bell, the man called out, "Do you always carry so many weapons?" Bell replied, "I have to, because I have no divine weapon." The stranger, interested, said, "I am looking for someone with great heroic potential." A bright flash lit up in the man's palm, and he extended his hands, releasing a spark towards Bell. Blinded by the light, Bell shielded his eyes. When the light faded, a sheath was stuck in the ground before him. Surprised and nervous, Bell watched as the stranger explained, "I am giving this to you. It is the divine scabbard of Avalon. It can store and transfer divine weapons, growing stronger with each generation. It now contains the weapons of 5 great heroes. Master them, and you will wield the most powerful divine weapon in the world." 3 years later, Bell stood with the stranger on a high tower among the rocks. A red dragon flew in the sky, roaring as it descended. Bell extended a hand, summoning the scabbard of Avalon. It appeared, glowing with blue flashes. He commanded the weapon to appear, and Achilles' wind shield materialized in his other hand. As the dragon flew close, Bel lowered the shield, prepared for the impending battle, and faced the dragon with unwavering resolve. Following this, Bel immediately summoned the Holy Storm Hammer. Pulling his hand back, weapon in grip, he leaped high above the dragon. With a powerful swing, he brought the hammer down, striking the dragon with such force that its muzzle was pinned to the tower. The beast lay still, defeated. Bel stepped away from the dragon and approached his mentor, sheathing the scabbard as he walked. The man in the white robe, observing Bel's mastery, nodded in approval. "You have mastered Avalon," he said. "Now, go to your sister. Even an S-rank paladin will not stand in your way." Bel was initially surprised by his mentor's words but then felt a wave of joy. "I understand," he said, his voice brimming with determination. He set out on his journey, reflecting on the 5 years that had passed since his exile. Now, he possessed the power to protect his dear sister. "Sarah, just wait for me," he whispered, his resolve solidified. Night fell as Bel journeyed on. Suddenly, he saw bright flashes of flame and black smoke on the horizon, coming from the direction of the duchy. He stopped on a rock, peering ahead in horror. What happened, he wondered, his heart pounding. As he approached the scene, he saw flags fluttering amidst the chaos, bearing the coat of arms of the Duchy of Roth. Cautiously, Bel peeked around a corner, watching as armored men fought fiercely among themselves. Is this really a civil war, he thought, dread creeping into his mind. But where is Sarah? Rushing to the family estate, Bel ran through the grand corridor, shouting desperately, "Sarah! Your brother has returned. Where are you?" At the end of the corridor, he saw the doors ajar and hurried inside, hope and fear battling within him. His heart shattered as he beheld a horrific sight, his sister, lying next to a fallen column in a pool of her own blood. Bel froze, his face contorting with anguish. "Sarah," he cried, racing to her side. He lifted her gently, cradling her in his arms, his voice breaking as he called her name over and over, hoping for a miracle. At that moment, Bel realized she would never wake up. He stared at her lifeless form, his mind racing back to her promise, she would always be by his side. Grief overwhelmed him. He raised his head, a guttural scream tearing from his throat. Tears streamed down his face, splashing onto her body. "Why? Why did everything turn out this way?" he cried. "Why did I gain this power if I couldn't protect her?" As he vowed to return and protect her memory, a brilliant ray of light suddenly shot from behind, piercing his chest. Blood gushed from the wound, and he gasped in agony. Heavy footsteps echoed around him. The enemy was approaching slowly but deliberately. Bel recognized the gate, a S-rank divine weapon master. The stranger's cold voice cut through the air. "Is this Bel, the catastrophe? I heard he was banished long ago." Blood dribbled from Bel's mouth as he looked up, trying to focus on the man's face. The stranger sneered, "It doesn't matter. You will soon be reunited with your beloved sister." The realization hit Bel like a thunderbolt. It was this man who had killed Sarah. Rage surged within him. "You freak!" Bel shouted, turning to face his adversary, but before he could act, the enemy's weapon struck again, piercing his chest. A searing pain tore through Bel's body, and he thought he would die without exacting his revenge. He wouldn't accept this fate. As his vision blurred, a bright flash enveloped him. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a grand cathedral, a priest standing before him. Bel looked at his hands in bewilderment. Where was he? How was he alive? He recognized the place, the Cathedral of Catastrophe. But how? Hadn't he just died? The priest's calm voice interrupted his thoughts. "We are about to begin the oracle ceremony." "Ceremony?" Bel repeated in shock. Did he travel back in time? The priest asked him to stretch out his hands and present his divine weapon. Bel's mind raced. At this moment in time, he had not yet found Avalon. He would have to start over, be banished again. But as he stretched out his hands, a bright blue flash illuminated the space. A snow-white scabbard appeared between his palms. Bel stared in disbelief. It was Avalon. He clutched the sheath, hope surging through him. He could start again, rewrite his fate. The gilded patterns on the scabbard glinted in the light, and the priest looked mildly surprised. "A divine scabbard is indeed a rarity," he remarked. Bel interrupted, determination hardening his voice. "Can I fight with this? Is that what you think?" The priest, slightly taken aback, replied, "Not at all." Bel left the cathedral, his resolve unwavering. He returned to the estate, his heart pounding with renewed purpose. If he had truly returned to the past, then Sarah must be alive. He dashed through the corridors, hope mingling with fear. This time, he would not fail. This time, he would protect her. Entering the grand estate, Bel felt a surge of familiarity and nostalgia. He pushed open the door to her room, and there she was, Sarah, alive and unscathed, sitting by the window. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe for the next part. Thanks for watching.